You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey everybody, how's it going this week?
NASCAR Week, David Hall.
Did you say NASCAR Week?
Greg Hectus.
This is going to be a slow week. Nothing happened, right?
Right. And Kyle Pendergraft.
Is Darlington really this week?
Yes, and it was a fun race out there. It separates the men from the boys, but let's talk all about it. Today's episode, iRacing reveals one of its best, most closely guarded secrets ever as the Pro Invitational races with the new Next Gen Cup car and releases it to the community as a whole. It's been an exciting week for us fans of NASCAR, and we can't wait to get to it.
Also, remember, you can follow along with us on your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all the great topics and products that we will discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting the show notes. We hope to see you there.
Coming soon, Grid Finder 2.0, a complete overhaul to the better suit the sim driver's needs, adding many new features to its already robust search functions, including allowed controller types, driver assist, race length, and whether leagues are currently recruiting. The changes don't stop with the league page. Grid Finder is also rebuilding the paint booth, commentary box, and merchandise page. The site is still fully functional as they work through the beta phase to make sure the Grid Finder 2.0 launch is as slick as the new logo. Visit them, www.grid-finder.com, to find a league or to upload your own. Grid Finder is the home of online sim racing leagues.
All right, guys, we're going to start off this week with a little bit of Coke news, sort of. There was no race, of course. There's not one for the next 2 weeks. But JR Junior Motorsports posted an article on their website that Michael Conte, who is their driver of the number 8 JRM Coke Series car, he will now be racing in a brand new WR1 sim chassis, which is also the sponsor on his actual on-track car. So he says in the article that the level of immersion is quite a change of pace for him after running years with his Logitech wheel, pedals, and shifter. So Michael Conte gets a big upgrade on his rig system, and we'll see how he does when he gets back on the track with it.
It's so important to have a cockpit, a stationary seat, and stationary pedals and a stationary steering wheel, because I'm flopping around like a fish. I don't know about you guys. I mean, my back is pushing back and forth, and my feet and legs are going straight as they can be. I mean, and I abuse this cockpit, but this is a nice setup, and I'm sure he likes it.
Yeah, because I went from like a fold-out dinner tray and a fold-out chair for the longest time, and then a buddy of mine gave me a piece of junk rig, but it was better than what I had, and now I've upgraded to this next level, and I love how sturdy it is.
I think the biggest thing is you need a solid base for your pedals. The pedals is like the key to everything. If you're pushing on that brake and it's starting to go away from you, you ain't getting efficient. You're not efficient at anything you're doing. So, I think having a solid rig is, it's worth tenths or seconds on the track, depending on how you sit. We always joke about Tony using stuff on his rig to try and stop when he was using Crocs to stop him from moving. But when you get a solid rig like this, you definitely know it.
It's not just the pedals, but the chair as well. Because I raced in the office chair, and if it moved any, You know, you just could not brake the same way. You could not be aggressive with the brakes.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to hear that Michael Conti was still using like a Logitech wheel and shifter and pedals, because I mean, he's been in the sim quite a while now, quite a few years. I would have thought by now he'd probably invest a little bit more based on, you know, the level of competition he's in, you know, to try to maximize his abilities with matching his equipment. But we'll see.
He's won too. He's won a championship.
The Logitech doesn't necessarily hold you back, though, when you're that level of talent. I mean, you know, Timmy Hill's still running his G29. You're right. I just saw it on the TV last night. Was it a 27?
27. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, saw it on the show last night. They were going to talk about later, and he still runs fine. So some of them are almost reluctant to upgrade because they're going to be afraid it's actually going to set them back a little, having to relearn a new system, a new setup.
It's kind of like my old comfortable shoes. You know, my wife hates them, man. They're so ugly, but boy, I love wearing them, and they're a known commodity. And so when you win a championship with a Logitech wheel, man, it's hard to let that go, I bet.
Yeah, I guess. And I wasn't trying to suggest that his ability was tied to his to what he was using. You know what I mean? Like he's going to get better by getting better equipment. I just figured somebody who's been that successful and is this invested in the sport, you know, just naturally gravitate towards better equipment.
Well, he won his race right after he got it, and he hadn't won for quite some time.
And I've been on record before saying that super talent, they can win in just about everything. Somebody who's just, you know, an average Joe like me could tell a difference and did get faster when I got the better equipment. But that's because I didn't have the talent to overcome the cheaper equipment.
Yeah, I agree completely. And for me, VR made my driving a lot more consistent. I was a lot better with my spatial awareness with the walls on the track. Before, I would bump them all the time when I was just using monitors. But, you know, I know that's a little bit different topic. But I'm just mean that different equipment can help different people, especially when they're not as talented as people as Michael Conte.
Well, do you ever get the jitters when you're close to that wall?
Mm-mm.
David Wilson actually put up a poll in the forums asking people if they get the jitters and gives them 6 options to choose from. Now, I can speak from personal experience. When I first joined iRacing, like the first 5 races I did, I was nervous. Then every time I would get a new license, I would get really nervous. And even to this day, if I'm leading, especially when it's coming down to the end of the race, I get extremely nervous. But normally just running in the pack, I don't really get that nervous. I just know there's a blinker or somebody who's just dangerous out there.
I have documented races I've lost due to this. When you get in that position, when you know you're in position to win, you're really supposed to take it up a notch. And lots of times I take it up 2 notches and overdrive it and blow it.
You only had room for 1 notch and you took it up 2.
That's right.
I was fine. Oh, sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Greg. No, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was gonna say it's always easier to be the chaser and chase after somebody and try and do it. And then when you're in these races, I find on a Sunday morning when you got a good qualifying or something in a race and you hop in the rig after just waking up, that's when you kind of get the jitters there, or just in certain situations. Road course racing kind of brings jitters to me as well with some of the stuff, but you know, you eventually just get in the zone and you get going and it kind of goes away. But like what Kyle said, when you're up front there, you're thinking about it and you just overthink. You think, wait, it's so hard to just be a leader or didn't do it. And if you're just chasing somebody, it's so much more fluid than running your laps trying to make sure you go away from somebody.
I get an advantage here with with all my performing experience in front of large crowds, and just being in pressure situations, you eventually learn to know that the feeling is there, but just set it aside. But the feeling is definitely there, and especially like when I was coming to that first NIS win, I definitely felt that ticking in the back of my head, like, is that caution going to come out, or am I going to spin out? It's all in there, but you get used to it, and you just kind of buckle down and leave it in the back of your mind, kind of compartmentalize it.
24-hour race is a big one for me because I'm not a regular road guy, and my big thing is, I don't want to wreck the car for the other guys. And so the nerves are there. And I think you guys probably know me more than anyone. It's on restrictor plate weeks. I'm pacing late nights. I'm like, hey, am I going to be able to pull this off? And that's the nerves, man. And because I'm expected to win, and I usually do. But the pressure, I think, is even higher in those situations.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of nervousness can be, and jitters can be just from preparedness. The more prepared you are, the less I feel like I get nervous in the race.
Oh, that's why it's so high, because I don't prepare.
Yeah. when you show up right before the session starts. But no, so I think a lot of nerves for me anyway is based on how prepared I am. And so I get a lot more nervous if I don't feel like I'm prepared for a race than if I do think I am. And once I'm in the race, I typically get calmed down, and then the nerves will come and go as the race dictates. Whether I'm in a tight spot, or like you were saying, Kyle, if I'm in the lead late in the race, that changes a lot of that stuff too.
And the survey, go ahead, Kyle, and then I'll wrap it with the results.
All right. Yeah, because I can run up the lead, the first 90% of the race, and I'm fine. But it gets down to those last handful of laps, and the pressure's on, and I get the jitters really bad.
Yeah, and the survey says out of 282 votes that there was about 38% at a little nervous, and the chilled and full attention are almost kind of sort of the same thing, I guess. I guess full attention means you're concentrating but don't feel nervous. But the big one was a little nervous, which is probably reasonable for most people, because part of the reason we do it is because it's exciting and there's a risk of something going wrong.
Yeah, just one last note. If you don't get those kind of nerves, you're probably not as invested as you need to be, to a point, I would think.
Yeah, this ain't no video game, right?
Depends on who you ask.
Except for when it crashes.
Yeah, except for when it crashes after you've invested in that IR18.
Yeah, so we got a couple quick hits here. This one is the support posted up on Twitter and the forums that the sim will crash to the desktop while in the Dallara IR18 in some situations. They're currently investigating. We'll have a fix as soon as they have something ready. This was a fascinating one to watch in the forums because initially they were saying it was a server issue is what all the drivers were saying, because it looked like a bunch of people got dropped, like, 10 to 15 people or something. But I think I read somewhere later that it turns out that they all just crashed to the desktop because there was a wreck and whatever is broken broke it.
And they had actually a warning on the website for a while saying, don't run this car or run it at your own risk.
Yeah, I don't remember ever giving them that kind of warning. It's run at your own risk type of warning.
That's
and
the second one.
Have you seen that? And I haven't seen any updates yet as to patches or anything yet either for this.
What was the thing? It was a couple weeks ago we had that problem too.
Different car.
Yeah, it was a different car that was having a problem. It wasn't the Nationwide car or the ARCA car?
I don't know.
I can't remember now.
But yeah, there was a similar time they've done this, second time this has happened, where they've kind of issued a warning before they get it fixed. But hopefully they get it fixed before the 500, obviously, right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting if they don't.
I have a warning for all of our married listeners. And we've actually seen this. We've had this problem talked about on chat with, I know Grove's wife's race, and Tony's wife is racing. We don't have to worry about Mike's wife racing, but the Bobby Delvani does have to worry about his
Mine
wife.
either.
Because he tweeted that he's having trouble getting on his iRacing rig now because his wife's been practicing for the Better Half Dash. And I could tweet him back and tell him the best solution for that, but then I might be called a home wrecker.
I was gonna say, doesn't he just have to go to the studio? He can get time in it then if he just goes to the studio because there's a rig there for him.
Which two?
Yeah, that's why I raced the other night.
Yeah, she's taken over his rig is basically what's happened.
But Bobby is up at 5 a.m. in the morning. He's no Mike. He actually practices. He gets up at 5 a.m. and practices.
You're gonna take that, Mike.
Yeah. I'm proud of the no practice and win.
It's been something you've been doing ever since I've been around, so.
Yeah, you stick with what works.
That's right.
Well, what works to bring in new accounts?
Well, it would work if you give people a 40% discount if you sign up as a new account. That's what iRacing is offering for now. So a 1 month is $7.80. 3 months is $19.80. A year is $66. There's has been an addendum to that. We'll get to that a little bit later. And $119.40 for a 2-year sign up, which is actually a really good price. So yeah, go ahead and if you're interested in starting up a new account, again, this is for new accounts only. You can get a pretty decent discount. I looked at this and I could not find an expiration of when this for ends. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but I did not see it on the site.
The 40% thing, I think, is a standing offer, Greg, or Brian. The one we'll talk about later in the show, I think, ends May 12th.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know that was a real short time, but that's a really good one. We'll get to that.
Okay, and then, Greg, you put this one up about the Olympics, but I didn't really understand it because it's not about iRacing.
No, and it's kind of just a vague, or just a different. The reason I posted it is just because it's something that eventually it looks like maybe, it might be something that there's different categories added to it and do it. So what we'll talk about here is the video game Gran Turismo, which is a PlayStation title, was at the IOC. Or the IOC has announced that they're going to launch this official series to include motorsports in the Olympic Virtual Series. So it's the OVS, and it's going to go down it's going to be going down March 13th to the 23rd or May 13th to June 23rd before the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So it's kind of just like its own off event, but it's going to be under the Olympic Committee. So I'm guessing you're going to get a gold medal if you finish first and a silver and a bronze, which will be interesting. I know there's been talks about adding different things to the Olympics, so this might be a way to have their own category for each country in the Olympics for virtual stuff.
I see a political side to this, though. How does the committee decide which game should be represented on the world stage?
The one that wrote them the check.
Yeah, it's almost as payola as some of their decisions on which cities get the Olympics. Right. It seems like to me.
It'd be cool if iRacing was involved.
They're calling Gran Turismo like the pinnacle of video game racing world, which
it's its own brand. I would just consider it its own separate entity, and it's another sim/video game property that's out there that somebody can race. And I know that there's big events that are televised for this. And I know Lewis Hamilton from F1 does a lot of stuff with it as well, or used to. I'm not sure if he still does, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on with this Gran Turismo where it's become a staple. I mean, it's a good video game to play, on your own home console, but it does put on good events. So hopefully this gets some attention, and maybe we can add more things to it, because I know they were talking about doing shooter video games and things like that eventually, or golf, like some online golfers, things like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they were talking about, but who knows if it'll ever be a full Olympics virtually.
If I was a previous Olympic gold medal winner in an actual sporting event, this would kind of piss me off.
Was that any different than any sim racer getting a trophy, getting like the little Miles the Monster version?
Yeah, well, yeah, you like all those dirt racers out there around the country, the small track racers, they're scraping by, not getting anything, and they're all mad because sim racing's getting all the money.
I think it's just going to be, you're talking about the optics of it, Mike, because it's virtual and someone just using their fingers or their hands or their steering wheel or whatever to compete in it. But if you look at some of those events that go on in the Olympics, like, is everything that's in the Olympics an actual sport or event for it? Like, you can have a hot topic.
They include curling. I mean, come on.
I was more thinking the lifting.
Oh.
But no, to me, it sounds like this is just like a pre-Olympic tournament for a bunch of different types of video games events. It's kind of interesting that IOC has is announcing the launch of this. Maybe it's just their way of tying it in to the Olympics as a pre-event sort of thing. I don't put a ton of weight in this, other than it's probably going to be a good event, less for the driving games and probably more for the FPS type of games that are real popular with tournament styles and professional gamers. So I think I don't put a whole lot into this. And I think that's why they're going with a console type of racing game rather than something that's more serious and true to life.
Well,
that being said, what other sports or any type of game is actually so close to real? All right, they don't quite have it where you can actually be the quarterback on the football field, right? You're playing from a blimp view.
See, that's one thing I haven't understood yet with some of the technology, like. David, most of us here run VR. 3 of the 5 that are on the show tonight run VR. They haven't turned any of those like sports into a virtual, like, you can't stand there in the pocket and be a quarterback. You can't stand there. You can't be coming down on a breakaway as a hockey player or as a goalie standing in net in soccer or something like that. Yet with there's some of that stuff, but it hasn't really gotten to that point. But whereas racing has put you in the cockpit virtually, where you can feel like you're sitting there and have all the senses in the world that you could ever ask for it, except for for G-forces. But I think the thing with this event that I look at it is it really going to matter if you bring home the gold medal? You can say you're a gold medalist for the Olympics, and it's not going to matter if you just say you're a gold medalist, right?
Who knows? Maybe they'll bring home something like $10,000.
Yeah, actually, a good friend of the show, Evan Pasoko, won the Marcus Lemonis Camping World Challenge. Basically, Evan he predicted that Kyle Busch would get the win at Kansas, and lo and behold, Kyle Busch got the win with 59 laps led, and which then made him the $10,000 shopping spree winner at Camping World.
He had to actually predict how many laps Kyle would lead too.
Yeah.
Which was
was it 59?
Kyle Busch. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming so. He won that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was going to say about this was Evan calls a lot of races. I mean, he does more than just the Coke races, guys. He's on a bunch of different stuff. He does racing in his real job too. And if anyone can kind of predict something like this, it's somebody who's a seasoned announcer who tracks stats, who says it out loud on a regular daily basis almost. Who better to try to predict how many laps Kyle Busch could lead in a particular race than the Evan Pasoka? Well done.
Yeah, good job, Evan. Congratulations.
There happens to be more money up available as well. Is it Marcus Lemonis? Did I say that right?
Yep.
He is putting up more cash for the iRacers. You can win a $5,000 Camping World shopping spree if your retro painted car is picked. And I don't know who that's for, who he's going to be running it for, or if is he picking it for the 99?
He just wants a Camping World retro paint. Somebody add up all the money Marcus Lemonis has given away for paint jobs this spring. He's doing pretty good. I mean, he's giving out more money than anybody else I see for paint jobs, right? But a lot of people don't like what he's doing.
Are we covering that later, or do you want to dive into it?
No,
skip it.
I don't think we're covering it at all, but if you want to talk about it, sure.
Well, some people feel like it's taking money out of the hands of your regular paid designers and tossing it out into, I guess, people who are just coming in for the competition.
I guess the big thing here, David, too, while you're saying that, is it actually affecting, like, because obviously all these teams have graphics designers that, work on their own in-shop help or whatever, or a company they farm it out to, and there's a whole process that they got to go through to be accredited for NASCAR to be able to run these paints. Is it affecting their jobs at all doing these things, or is it just a mere contest to be part of? Which we have no idea if it's actually doing any of that. I know it's affecting the painting community on the design side here, on the iRacing side, or any of the other design sides where they're using their own programs to do it. But has it really affected anybody's job yet?
And to know, we would really have to know somebody who paints regularly for a team. Like, that's their day job, right? So it's a tough guess. But, if I could get a paint that I painted on any Cup car driver, like, say, for the Pro Invitational, I don't care if they give me $1, I'll do it for free just for the chance to say I did it. Just like if I got a chance to play with Avenged Sevenfold on stage, I'm not going to ask for money.
But David, you can't paint chrome on these cars as much as you put on these. You can wrap chrome, I guess.
Whatever. Do you actually look at the cars I paint and at the fact that they don't have chrome on them?
They're metallic. I know. I'm just bugging you.
Yeah, but yeah. We're all mean to each other nowadays.
Not mean. We just keep each other in line.
Sounds like we copycat some of the other shows that pick at each other. Brian, you want to tell us about some BMW?
Yeah, so the VRS Coanda Sim Sport duo of Josh Rogers and Mitchell DeJong, and there's not two better road racers in the sim. They go back-to-back in the BMW Sim GT Cup with a dominant win at Road Atlanta, which was this past Sunday. So the pairing led all but one of the 95 laps completed and scored another decisive victory, and they actually repeated their victory that they took in the top split last month at the Silverstone race. So those two guys together are really just tearing it up in this this BMW Sim GT Cup, and there's just it's hard to beat those two guys. You got the top two finishers in the Porsche Tag Heuer Porsche Super Cup series teamed up together. I mean, that's like a super team, and they're just blowing everybody away in these races.
So Mitchell is just on fire, obviously, and I just can't wait to see him in the Coke car at the road track, and just can he keep up with Bobby? Nobody has been able to keep up with Bobby, and so I'm just chomping at the bit for this. This is really brewing to be a good battle.
Is that the next event for the Coke Series, or is there one more race between that one for the Coda?
No, Coda's up next for those guys.
Okay,
They're
good.
off 2 weeks. They're off 2 weeks, and then they have Coda, which is going to be just fantastic. But I agree completely, Mike. I am already chomping at the bit to watch that race. I think Mitchell's probably a better road course driver, but I think the equalizer is Mitchell doesn't have the experience in the Cup cars on road courses, and I think that's what's going to make it even more competitive and closer. I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and Keegan is trying so hard to keep up too, and he'll be right there.
It's been a long time, even in real world racing, that a road course ringer who's used to, whether it be sports cars or open wheel, has really been able to come in and dominate. I mean, basically, it's been what, AJ and Marcos and Juan Pablo. Did he ever win one of the road course races?
Pablo, yes. No, I don't think he got a road course.
Didn't he win at Watkins Glen?
He might have, yeah. But you're kind of saying this then, David. You're kind of saying like, so you got like, if you're looking at it right now, you got like Chase Elliott and them. They're really good all around drivers in general. But then you had like someone, you're thinking that maybe, De Jong is thought about, or is becoming an all good round racer in those cars. But it's like when Boris said used to come in and try and do it when they were, so back in the day, I guess, when only Gordon and Stewart and them were really good road racers, and then you had the rest of the field that was just trying to finish the races, kind of thing.
They wouldn't test for it. They wouldn't practice for it. It was just a throwaway race that they would just try to kind of finish, wherever they would finish. And none of them really cared about the road racing that much up to a point. But nowadays, you just don't have a non-regular Cup driver coming in and winning. They come in and they run well still, but you haven't seen somebody who can just come in for a one-off run and win. Now, that being said, De Jong is now in the series full time, so he's more than just a ringer.
Yeah,
right.
On the other hand,
and that's how I consider Juan Pablo Montoya. He was he came obviously from the road course side, but he ran full seasons. I didn't consider him a road course ringer, just a really good road course driver. He wasn't like a one-off type of guy. You might want to think maybe about somebody like AJ Allmendinger, who's going to be running the road courses. He's not a regular Cup driver right now, but he's going to be popping in that car to try to get a good finish for somebody.
Betcha he'll be a regular driver next year. Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's already been announced.
No, the cars have been announced. He hasn't.
Right.
They haven't decided if they're going to have one or two cars yet.
Okay.
Let's go.
Nicholas Bailey posted in the forums that early on a Sunday morning, iRacing experienced an issue on a node with the primary database cluster. They are still investigating the root cause, but the result was that no results or championship points were recorded in the race sessions at that time. Now, we actually had races going on. I think it was the what was it? It was the Nürburgring something. But I had read that those results, that it was the first time slot that was affected. And the Nürburgring, I can't even say it right, Nürburgring Endurance Championship was the one that was affected. And it was the first time slot that was affected. And they actually added an extra drop week to compensate for this.
Well, it happens, and they go ahead and adapt for it and take that kind of stuff into consideration. So
I don't know.
Good on them for that.
I don't know the last time it's happened, though. I can't remember that this has happened before.
Usually the results are slow at coming in, not completely not being taken.
These are gone. These are gone. They don't have the results. I think that's a first. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know. But I've been doing this show a long time, and I don't remember ever doing a story like this.
Well, you guys ready for the big one?
Big topic.
What? Nothing happened. Yeah. Nothing happened this week.
Well, we've already mentioned it at the beginning of the show. We were thinking we're low on topics this week. Wrong. And boy, did it all got sent. Right? They sent it, basically. So we're going to talk NASCAR Pro Invitational. We're going to get quite a bit to cover. We're going to open it up with a tweet from Tim Clark, Senior Vice President and Chief Digital Officer who leads the operation of NASCAR's digital platform, including NASCAR.com. He tweeted that we just keep finding value in the iRacing platform. The iRacing team is one of the first partners to get under the hood of the next-gen car, and using the virtual environment to build the on-track product is incredibly unique and pretty badass. And we've talked about this before. They've now helped a track reset a dirt scan, right? They basically are helping design the next-gen car in some ways and helping test it on track. It's pretty cool.
And Chicago, not Chicago, the Chicago street course, and then California.
And the Daytona chicane that we added was tested on iRacing first, right?
This platform here, or the iRacing platform, to kind of get a footprint of how this car is going to go for a while. And there's going to be a lot more on-track testing with the car now that they got their bodies completely solved on them. But it's really good that they have this opportunity that we get to be test whatever test pilots for it while we go along for this next year. For half a year.
We didn't even know until, was it yesterday, that the new car was going to be in the race? Wasn't that announced at sometime yesterday morning?
Yeah, that's a very well-kept secret, obviously. Now, we obviously know NASCAR has been working on the car. There's been leaked photos, but as far as iRacing's involvement, I don't think anybody had any clue. I certainly didn't.
No, I was thinking that, once the car was released, then iRacing would start their scanning and all that process, and hopefully it would be all done by next year. But they've been working with them the whole time. I don't want to get too deep into that because we got a lot to go over with the next gen car. But I just, if you want to stay, if you want to stake your claim as a relevant and a future-proof type of platform, working this close with NASCAR on all these things has just validated the influence and the value that iRacing has brought to real racing. And when you make that kind of connection between the real world and what you're doing, you're building yourself a connection to the future. And how the sport evolves, you'll be evolving with it, and you'll be influencing it. It's pretty amazing what iRacing has accomplished here over the past few years, where they really stepped up their connection with NASCAR. And man, what a fantastic way to bring this product and offer it to just the regular fans and regular drivers and regular people who want to be connected to NASCAR in a special way. I mean, I feel really I feel like a test driver, with these new cars and new products. Yeah. And so it's what a great opportunity what a great time it is to be a sim racer. I really, really enjoy what's been going on here, and it just makes my love for this sim, this sport, this hobby just grow even more and more.
I did get home in time to see the pre-race ceremonies, Brian. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Fox announced this,
It's a star-studded event for tomorrow's iRacing, and the national anthem will be the Dead
have a
Daisies.
star-studded pre-race, as they were going to have the guests of the Dead Daisies with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple singing the national anthem. They were going to have Daryl Waltrip and his wife Stevie giving the invocation before the race, and none other than the King, Richard Petty, giving the command to start the engines. So, they pulled out all the stops for this pre-race event, and wow, really good to see that kind of quality entertainment and people before the race starts.
Yeah, and Fox Sports is all in on this, just like NASCAR is, and there's really three partners, as you mentioned. iRacing is ecstatic over this. NASCAR, their point of view, they're super ecstatic. Just look at NASCAR 2 years ago, the demographics. I mean, all of our fan base is aging. We have no connection with the younger viewer. What are we going to do? Woe is me. Maybe the new car will fix this. And now the tie-in with iRacing has kind of changed things, I think, and changed the tone of that. But look at how Fox has embraced it. They literally were on air more than 3 hours yesterday with pre-race, race hub, practice, everything. And then, to have a full, national anthem and prayer and command by the King. I mean, they're really pulling out all the stops.
As the sound guy, I wonder if there should have been some kind of canned crown noise after the Star Spangled Banner. That silence after the banner felt awkward to me, but at the same time,
the flyover?
Would canning the crown? I don't know about the flyover, but you're just so used to after every banner hearing the crowd roar. So I was kind of missing that part.
I got one other comment too. Hashtag awkward is Mike Joy. Mike Joy doesn't belong on this broadcast. He's too cynical. It's too much of a joke to him. I think if you just pluck him out and put in Alan Bestwick or
Evan,
anybody else, Jamie Little, anyone besides Mike Joy. I have nothing against Mike Joy, and he calls a good NASCAR race, but he's got this tone in his voice that rubs me the wrong way about iRacing.
But he also, the way that I kind of pick up on what you're saying there, Mike, he kind of leads every conversation that way too, and kind of forces it like
to a joke.
It's
a joke.
And a lot of the like even some of the racers don't take it seriously too, so you kind of it kind of rubs you the wrong way as we take it seriously as a hobby, but these guys are pros. They're supposed to be doing professional things at everything that they do to kind of represent themselves and their sponsors. But you're right. There's a lead with Mike Joy that how he presents stuff is it's always just a video game, or it's just a thing. It kind of reminds me of how Daryl Waltrip used to be when new things were starting to happen too, right? Like he wouldn't get out of the old era when he was on Fox talking about some stuff, and it's just he would lead it. He didn't like the new technology stuff, and that's why I find it surprising that they use Daryl Waltrip in some of this stuff too.
Daryl's been great when I've heard him call on iRacing. He's been good. I don't know about Mike Joy though, and I'm not the only one to notice. I did see a Twitter conversation about this, which kind of led me to bring this up.
Why wouldn't, I know we're doing this now at this time of year, they're not going to get into the NBC portion of the season, but don't you think having Dale Jr. and say Steve Letarte in the booth would be a good commentary?
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Because they're both very invested in the sim. Especially
and Parker Kligerman or something.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail right on the head, Greg. I think if NBC a little bit to do with this, they have a lot better stock of iRacing enthusiasts who would be available to call these races, and I think it would make a big difference in the broadcast.
All right, so how was the race, Kyle?
Actually, the end was actually pretty good. Eric Jones obviously took home the win, and what a gutsy move he made there with one to go. It went from third to first. I mean, in the blink of an eye, just went from the outside wall almost down to pretty much the apron, going into turn one and made the pass on two cars that were side by side to take the win. It was a pretty awesome move, if you ask me.
This is about the only track you could pull that move on, right, Kyle? Because you can race down on that apron, and a lot of times we go down right where he went down.
Yeah, you can race, like you said, basically the apron, just right where it starts to kind of curve up on that embankment. You can still run that and still hold a pretty good amount of speed and be able to keep the car under control with decent tires.
Well, and it's already got grip there.
That's almost the preferred line on that, entering on the apron or close to the apron and sliding up to the wall. So, it was pretty cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, leading up to this move, it was on a restart late in the race, and him and Anthony Alfredo both had new tires, and Timmy Hill was in the lead, but he had like 20-lap old tires compared to those guys. So Alfredo had some damage to the front of his car, so he was probably a little slower than he would be. And Jones was sitting back there in third with new tires. His car is in good shape, and made a crazy move to get ahead of those two guys.
So my question though, is this a product of the new car, or is this just the racing that we've come to want?
This is this group of drivers and how they race.
I don't think we're going to get a true thing of this car until it's completely ready to go, because if you think that this car right now on the track is what we're going to have come January, February next year, it's probably not going to be the same thing. But they did put on an entertaining show. I missed the end because I had to be up at 2:00 in the morning, and this was like it was taking forever to get through those laps early, and I missed the end. But this pass is probably indicative of just the way that this track races. It's momentum based, right?
So about that, the racing early. So I noticed Alfredo was involved in the first two cautions, I think. I don't think it was his fault the first time. The second one was probably his fault, but he was a little aggressive and he ended up with a good finish. But the other thing I was going to say is the cautions. I mean, there were many times there were wrecks where Tyler didn't throw the caution. And it was obvious that he should have, and even the broadcasters would take note of that. But they did it, in reference to it's a timed event, we're on TV, whatever. I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of that. I'm tired of the resets. I think the format, maybe not this year, we're too far in, but maybe next year they should look at, no resets. We're going to run this like a real race with real cautions. Every time there's a caution, there's a real caution, and just run it like a real official race.
But Mike,
they're just trying to make it match the NIS cautions.
I was gonna say they're trying to make it look like NASCAR as well, throwing cautions though they choose to throw them. Is there a tire sitting out on the track that they might get to or not get to? Is there a car sitting there?
Casual NASCAR viewer, that might rub them the wrong way. They might see that. They'll see, they wrecked all that time and they didn't throw the yellow.
My question is like, even with what was going on, like in the real NASCAR compared to, what they were doing last night. Okay, if they're not throwing the caution, why is there commentators saying that, if the commentators are thinking it should be a caution, then it probably should be a caution. It doesn't look good when they're announcing that it's not a caution because,
exactly.
It kind of just looks bad.
It gives that whole Mike Joy thing again. And, so I would just like to see it taken just a tiny bit more serious,
Yeah, I agree. And I really think the drivers just need to take this a little bit more serious, drive it more like they would in real life than if it was a video game, like the way they approach it, I think. For example, like Joey Logano, he threw one of his infamous crazy stupid blocks on somebody, and rather than check up, he just wrecked them, and so people are not driving like they would necessarily in real life, and that's where all these crashes are coming from. Again, it's a tough track. We all know how tough Darlington is Drive. They're working with a new car, which might have different levels of grip and aero and all that stuff as well. So I think this gets better when the drivers take it more serious, and then maybe Mike Joy will come around and call it more serious.
All right, so let's jump into the new car. So they announced the new next-gen cars will be available in iRacing for purchase immediately, like during the race. So like while the race was still going on, you could go to the website and literally buy the car. And Dale Jr. Posted up on the Twitter a short video. Hey, you can get behind the wheel now.
Today,
that's definitely a first and crazy. We were sitting warming up for the NIS race, and people started talking about it in the iRacing chat that we're also watching the race.
Yeah, a big surprise, and kudos to iRacing and NASCAR for keeping it under wraps so well. I don't think there was no rumor of this at all. No rumor at all.
Yeah, I'm sure that NASCAR was, expressed very strongly that they really wanted iRacing to keep this quiet, as a release in general, and then as a release on iRacing as well. They did not want this out, and I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on them at iRacing to not let this slip out at all.
Well, how many unwanted leaks have actually come out of iRacing in the last 5 years?
Well, it's more Reddit, right?
When they leak something, they want it leaked.
Or on April Fools.
Really good about that. Yeah.
We're on a tight ship.
But yeah, I was when I tuned into that race Wednesday night, I hadn't heard anything as of yet. And when I saw them start the program and talking about they're running the next gen car, I thought I was hearing something wrong. But man, that was so cool to hear that they're going to be running this new car. And then when I heard later in the broadcast that it's available, I was freaked out. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
and then they
cool.
just started watching their account go ching ching ching.
So iRacing releases content mid not on week 13 as usual, like normal. That's different. It's not unprecedented, but this is big content. This is probably going to be their biggest sale ever as far as content goes, I would think, because anybody who races oval is going to buy this car.
And it could be up to ×3, right?
And well, you got to think too. They unveiled the actual real life physical cars today. All of a sudden, they're going to start getting questions. Well, why ain't we releasing it on iRacing yet? So they had to release it the same day, and it worked in their favor. I think it's like you all said, it's going to be probably their biggest sale they've had.
Well, how many chat? I think during the day that we chat on chat, we're thinking, when do you think we're going to have? Are they going to scan them now all of a sudden, or are we going to have these in a couple weeks, a couple months? We were talking about it the day before.
My guess was after NIS.
Oh, the season?
I think what's neat is there's really a precedent set here in 2021 with car manufacturers releasing new cars virtually either at the same time or before the real car comes out. And we've seen this several different times now. And to have, Toyota, Ford, and Chevy, some of the biggest manufacturers in the world, doing it the same way, this is business as usual probably now.
And we still haven't learned everything we know about these cars yet. There's still stuff that hasn't been talked about on it as well.
Well, one of the things we talked about is we don't know that the tire compounds are all going to be settled yet, right? Goodyear's. Somebody said, I heard from somebody's, sister's brother's cousin, that they're not settled on what compounds they're going to use at each track yet.
Well, even if you look in the setup part of it, they've changed the max camber on the cars. It used to be 6, and I think it's 3 or 3.5 now, which tells me they don't want the tires leaned over as much because of the size of these tires now. It's probably would build up too much heat on the inside if you start going crazy camber wise with this size rim and tire.
Is that front wheels as well?
Yeah, it's the front. The fronts are, I think it's 3.5 or 3.0. It's maxed at.
Okay, because it's the old car is 3.5 in the back.
Yeah, but I think it's 6 in the front.
Well, once they release the content, Kyle, Gustafson put out a report.
Yeah, he gave everybody, staffer Alex Gustin gave an update in the forums of basically what all to expect with the car and the differences now with the new car and what, well, basically what all they offer, should I say. And I could sit here for 3 days and read each one to you, but it looks like it's going to be a bit of a difference here.
And
Yes.
they're actually running an A series that's going to be, or an A class series that's going to be for official.
When's that start, Dave?
I think it's now, isn't it?
Is it active now? Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
And then the
I
unofficial fixed.
Okay, I thought maybe they wouldn't start something like that till the end of this current build season.
It's tempting, but I already run 50 races a week, right? So what's 51? I don't know.
Yeah, it's already available. There's practice rooms and everything.
That's crazy. I'm really excited about some of the things on here. I haven't gotten it yet just because I've been busy ever since yesterday. But for example, with the single lug, or how much are the pit stops changed? Are they much quicker? Have anybody tried that yet?
I haven't gotten the car yet either.
Well, they won't even know until they see in real life what the actual speed is. We're still going to be waiting on, like, a full thing of fuel is going to take the same amount of time, right? They're not going to speed up the way the cans dispense the fuel.
Greg, you're saying NASCAR doesn't know, but we know now because you can go into an iRace right now with these cars and take a pit stop.
Yeah, but how accurate is that too? It's like how when they changed the air guns to everybody having the same air guns, it started off at a certain, they were at like 13, 14 seconds, and now what are they down to? Almost 11 seconds again doing pit stops, 11, 12 seconds?
Here's the thing that you got to also consider too. In order for iRacing to put this car out, they had been doing all the research and development, which they have been doing. So I'm sure there's probably some of this data already available on, how long it takes to fill the car up, how long it takes to pull the lug nut off, pull the wheel off, put a wheel on, put the lug nut back on. So I'm sure all that's kind of already been taken into consideration. So we might actually see actual representation of what it's like in the pit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if NASCAR crews have been practicing pit stops on this car already. And who's to say that iRacing hasn't been watching them and been at these test sessions that these cars have been already doing?
Yeah, getting telemetry.
I can almost guarantee they're getting information from these cars during these tests. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've had people checking out pit stop practices on the cars too. I'm sure when NASCAR came out with the single lug thing, that they've probably done a lot of testing with crews and stuff like that to see how it's going to affect and change the racing. And why not invite them, iRacing, there to check it out as well, so they can start compiling information, so they'll have stuff ready for last night's race.
Now, the reason I'm saying what it is we all know what the speed's going to be to fuel a full 18 gallons already, right? We already have that data. If you go in just to get fuel, it's the same. It'll be the same way it's always been fueled in that car. It's the same can, same fill nozzles and everything. The only thing that's changing is the fact that they got a jackman and only one lug nut to hit. So, like I said, they're going to be waiting on fuel. They could do those tires just a lot faster. It'll just be the fuel they wait on.
True, and I guess if you get closer to the end of the race and fuel is less necessary to get full, that could definitely change pit stop times.
So, Greg, how many times have I poked Bobby Jonas about painting this car already?
A couple times today already.
I'm just anxious because the car is pretty. I mean, regardless of what it performs like, I love the look of the car. And I was asking him what make, and I think he said Chevy. But
he's always going to do a Chevy. And it's funny that you said that. You like to drive the Toyota a lot, right, Mike? That's mostly what you've been driving.
But it just looks so plain compared to the Ford and the Chevy this time.
And I wish that we had. I wish. I don't know if you guys saw the post last night. The Trading Paints Twitter page went crazy as soon as that announcement came out. I guess they weren't completely. Maybe they were just saying it on the thing, but they were saying that the page will be live in a couple hours to be able to upload this car. I guess they had to add a bunch of stuff in to make sure that. I'm guessing they had to wait till it was announced. They probably knew about it. They just so that they could add it all into the infrastructure of Trading Paints to get it to work. So they, I guess later on last night it updated, and I guess it's Ryan. Is it? I'm gonna screw up his last name. Pistana. Said he was the quickest in the paint booth, and he was the first guy to have a paint in the next gen category on iRacing, or on the Trading Paints. And now he did a Dale Earnhardt senior 3-car in black, but it's in a Camry, and I just don't get it.
It looks pretty good, though. I like the way the number and sponsor are placed, and it looks fresh and modern. I like it.
But it's a Toyota with a GM badge on the front of it.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. You kind of feel like these painters have like a copy and paste with the number 3 Goodwrench. Any car that comes out, they can just copy and paste it on there.
Well, it's such an easy, black, gray, and a red stripe, and then as long as you have the Goodwrench decals, you can do it pretty quick. The other thing is the other thing I noticed with this car is it's kind of if you look on this picture that we have of it. The 3 number he did on it's kind of small. It's kind of fitting above that line, but it looks like it feels like this car has a little bit more ad space, and I think that's what they're designing to try and move those numbers around. It looks like it just has more surface area to put an ad.
Well, is that number moved or is that a custom number?
Well, it is a custom number. Does it not look smaller than it should be on that car?
It is.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is did he put that number there himself instead of using the iRacing stamped number?
Yeah, I don't know if is the stamp number or not, but whatever it is, it just looks like that Goodwrench can fit perfectly above the quarter panel there and not lose any of the actual lettering. I know sometimes when you're trying to put some of these words on the side of the car, you can lose some of the lettering.
I'm so stoked to see how my paint will look on this car. I told Bobby I just want to copy it over, same kind of scheme and same concept, so to speak, but I think it's going to look sharp. We'll see.
I like how from the testing, like we saw the car in testing, and I just thought that the 20-inch rims weren't fitting properly in the back. It looks like they've solved whatever problem with some of the designs to get that rim out a little bit further. Maybe I don't know if they just had to change something there tire-wise or whatever, but the car looks so much more racier when you got a big, thick rear tire that's right against the fender there instead of having a gap.
Yeah, the look is good.
In Trading Paints just before the show, and man, there was a lot of paints already up on this car. People were really taken to it and starting to paint them up already. It's going to be by the time we really get into this, maybe by next year, there's going to be a lot of paints up on Trading Paints. That's pretty cool.
Oh, I bet you someone's got the full field. Someone's going to have a full field of cars by all the 2021 paint jobs will be in there.
Well, somebody's got to go make all 40 of the Danica paints again too.
All right, David, how about the garage? We got a close look to that thanks to Fast Pasta.
Yeah, Mr. Pasta, Anthony, Alfredo, he put out a YouTube video, and he goes over the garage. And actually, most of the information that I'm going to say about the garage, I just kind of stole from Michael. He went ahead and started playing with the setup and described it as being more like setting up a GTE car now. There's no track bar anymore, right? It's rear suspension. It's independent rear suspension. So that adjusts.
No truck arms, nothing.
The steering ratio is different now. With
was it steering pinions instead of steering ratio or something along those lines?
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't lose a whole lot of the adjustability, because that we have quite a range even in our team that run differently on that.
As long as the ballast is there, right, David?
That helps the middle of a corner. Yeah, sure.
I laugh every time you make a comment about it.
Your steering goes from 40 millimeter to 70 millimeter.
Hey, Joe.
Surprise guest. Thank you for the tip.
Joe Owen, you've been in this car. What do you think so far?
Oh man, I love it. It looks like it's going to be a whole lot easier to set up. I mean, of course, the setup that they have, I went around Darlington, and man, good God, I messed with the steering. That's why I know it went down from 40 millimeter to 70 millimeter, I think. And just for you to know, the lower you go is like, I guess a 40 millimeter is probably equivalent to the 16-to-1 ratio. And, of course, the 70 is probably more geared to the 8-to-1. But I've tried them all, and my God, I mean, the car is phenomenal. I can't wait to really be able to get my hands on the setup, because it looks like it's going to be a little easier to set up than what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, a little more modern stuff to work with than that old school stuff.
Have you been in the car on the high downforce tracks and seen if the spoiler changes or not?
No, the only thing I went on Darlington. I was going to mess with it a little bit here in a few minutes, but also try to work on the setup that I want to run Friday night for Darlington too. So
it does have multiple spoilers, David.
Yeah, the spoilers on the broadcast were really short compared to what they are now.
Yeah, so that's the low downforce, high horsepower.
Gotcha. That's good. I think that'll make the racing better, to get these cars loosened up a bit and lose a little bit of grip on these tracks.
Well, if they have the bigger spoiler, it sounds like they're going to still do the same thing at the bigger tracks and have the stupid-ass big spoilers on there.
Well, I think the thing is they haven't fully announced all the packages and engine combinations, so we're still... like I said, they teased in the video, or in the actual broadcast, or not the broadcast, the conference there for the car reveals, that there was still more to come, that they haven't talked all about it. Like, if you notice, they never really went over a lot of the... We know that it has independent rear suspension. They talk about it like lightly, but there's a lot of stuff that they didn't go over in finer detail, and I think we'll find that out sooner as they get through testing.
So I thought I put the video in here, but I don't see it. Nick Neben put out a video on YouTube last night. He's a spotter for Dylan Duvall. He tried the new car at road course, short track, 1.5 mile, super speedway, and gave his thoughts on it. The 1.5 miles, he was like, it's flat. You're not lifting at all. It's kind of like the current car, where you just, run flat out and not lift for 10 laps. And he didn't like that. So, but the other tracks he did like, and thought, they were going in the right direction, but the wrong direction as far as 1.5 miles.
Now,
yeah, Mike mentioned that as well, is that he was able to flat it out at Charlotte.
Do you think that they're going to use for the Pro Invitational, they'll use this car for the rest of the season for it?
No.
You don't think so?
They announced they weren't.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say they're going to go to Chicago. I thought they might...
That's back to the normal car in Chicago.
I think that these cars would go... I think of all the places, these cars will act better at a road course because of all the new changes, more than... They'll be a little bit better on these for being stuck to the track on ovals and stuff like that. But the road courses, it'll have so much more... I think, David, it'll start coming back to you kind of the IMSA car way, where they have... It may not drive. It'll be heavy, but it might drive a little bit different.
That's what Nick even said. It's like driving a cheap IMSA car, is what he said, on the road course, and it was really hard to brake. He said he couldn't get the thing to stop.
I can't remember, which is weird because now they've finally got bigger brakes in the front. It should be stopping a lot better.
It still weighs twice as much as, say, a GTE probably.
Yeah, but it's. So you're saying he's comparing to a GTE trying to slow it down, not the old stock car.
Probably.
Because the other thing I was thinking of is you got those bigger brakes, so it should be a lot better on the road course. And I think these cars are going to go faster on road courses and they're saying they're already slower and everything else. So the road courses, I think they're going to set new personal track times this year with it, or next year with it.
The brakes feel good.
Yeah.
I saw somebody said that they were doing 2 seconds faster a lap at the Charlotte Roval than they did in the present Cup car.
Which wouldn't surprise me, just because of all having the diffuser, having the independent rear suspension when you only had a truck arm suspension before. It might drive more like, I'm trying to remember, I think the V8 supercar has independent rear suspension too, so it kind of maybe more resemble that car.
Somebody in the forums asked Christian Challoner, is the car ready for super speedways as far as aero and everything? And he said, yeah.
Well, I know on Darlington, when I run around there, I gained, I was running 29.8, and I was like running 28 sixes with it at Darlington. So, I mean, I love it.
I'm just worried about the 1.5 miles, and man, they really needed to fix that. And so I don't think they can without more horsepower, but so we'll see.
It's also going to be based on tire data too, because I don't think they get the tires. At least I wouldn't think they have the tires right on this thing yet either too.
I wonder if NASCAR will ever implement on the road side 2 different compounds, like some of the IndyCar guys, like just for road courses, have a soft and a harder compound for road, or are they just gonna keep it up with one compound all the way around?
They got the rain compound.
They've tried that at an oval before, haven't they?
I don't know if they have or not. It'll be interesting to see. I wonder if they would ever do that for an oval, but it really wouldn't make a difference unless you're trying to guess if they're going to have a long run to a short run.
Well, what was that, Indy, or was it an all-star race where they actually had 2 different compounds, but the fall-off just wasn't enough to make a full difference?
Oh, it was the all-star race. You're right. The Charlotte one when they did the aero package.
Failed experience. Yeah.
I think they went with the red and the yellow, I think.
So speaking of drafting, Brian, we have already seen some drafting with the new car.
Yeah, so Alex Fox posted on YouTube a video of the next gen car going around the iRacing Super Speedway. And either this is like an early glitch in the car, or this number 11 car in the video is the best backwards driver you've ever seen, because he's going backwards the entire time. His car's facing the wrong direction, going around iRacing Speedway, drafting a car in front of him. So I'm sure it's some kind of glitch, because you can't go that fast in reverse. But it's pretty funny to watch, and I mean, it's going in reverse. All the roof flaps are open and everything else. So something's not quite right on that one, but we'll see.
He's going what? It looks like maybe 150 in reverse.
No, he says 180. He said 185 or something like that is what he got it up to. I don't know if you guys noticed. I don't know if you read the comments on the YouTube page for it, but iRacing is the first post on it and said, "Note for next test in reverse." So I guess this is something they didn't test.
It's probably doesn't have a restriction on the gear ratio that you can set for the reverse gear.
Well,
gotta be.
If you're running that fast reverse, that motor wouldn't last very long because there's no cooling going to it at all.
Well,
Right.
yeah, they could have the damage turned off in a hosted session, but yeah, it's got to have your normal reverse gear is going to be on the chip before you get anywhere close to that speed.
Like, I know you got a second gear in a transport truck to reverse faster, but I've never heard doing 185 in reverse.
So you're like hobbits. You have second reverse instead of second breakfast.
Got a five gear reverse.
Okay, and then finally, to wrap up with the release of the next gen car, iRacing has announced a limited time offer. This is the one I mentioned through May 12th. A first year discount for new customers of only $20.22 for a year of iRacing. Wow. And there's a code to use, PR-2022 next gen.
Just crazy.
It almost makes me want to open up a second account. I mean, you can race on a second account for $22. I mean, $20 for a year.
You have enough money to do all your stuff that you do.
Oh,
Brian.
stop it!
But $20 is, I mean, I can't even buy our dinner for $20, you know. And you're right. When you look at the replies to this Twitter, actually, there's several people that saying just that. Hey, maybe I'm going to get a second account with a price like that. Why not? There's nothing to lose.
Yeah, but you're getting a second account with only the base stuff. Like, you don't get, you still have to pay for everything.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it for my kid. You know, he races on my account in practices, but I won't let him go near a hosted or a session with anybody else in it. But it'd be good for him to learn with.
Yeah, that's a cheap. Hey, here, you know, try this for a year.
His birthday's coming up too. Maybe I'll swing that for a birthday present.
Well, we know you can afford another rig.
Oh my God!
There's number 2. I already did it, David. I already did that to him.
Oh, did I just stepped up? I was away, huh?
I was gonna say he'll build him a mini or a smaller version of the rig that you got, right, Brian?
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, Bobby does actually have a rig designed for the little ones already.
With his car seat in it, it's awesome.
Okay, and then Greg, we had updates to Darlington itself on Tuesday and Wednesday morning.
So most of the updates were kind of visual stuff because of the broadcast, was it not, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. They just wanted to get everything up to date and 2021 looking. And the thing I noticed was the front